December 12th, 2019. Everybody rise, please. Let's pray. Father, we do thank you for the day you've given us. We thank you, Father, for your mercy. We thank you for this season that we celebrate your birth, Father. And we just pray that you be with the residents of our village during this season. And we just pray, Father, for those who are in need. And we just pray, Father, for the council members tonight as they conduct the business of the village. We just pray that you grant us wisdom. We love and praise you in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, council, for being here this evening. And Mr. Gilpin, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Noble? Here. Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Coogan?
Here.
Ms. Shepherd?
Here.
Ms. Hollifield?
Here.
All right, thanks. Next up is our approval of our November 14th regular meeting of council. Trust you all have seen those. Any concerns, questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept them as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd, and thank you, Ms. Hollifield. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
All right, next up is communications. Do we have any, Mr.?
We do not.
All right, public input. Is there any public input this evening? All right, having seen none, it brings us to our administration and committee reports with myself up first. First, I must make apologies to you out there who could be listening over the internet. I've been sick all week and I'm sounding better, but I'm still a little rough, so I may struggle through some of this stuff that I have to read tonight. So, Mayor's Court report for the month of November 2019. And total revenues of $9,996.10 with $7,899 going to the village, $2,019.10 to the state, and $78 to the county. Want to say that I want to thank Cindy Shepherd for her organization with our Christmas tree lighting we had last Friday night. It was a lot of fun, a good turnout. I got to admit I was a little worried about the weather. Even as we were sitting up the tables, it was still spitting rain on us a little bit. It was a wonderful evening because we, for the first time, had just an awesome sound system and lighting, so it was really neat. And Ryder Anderson lit the tree for us, and I have a certificate I'm going to be presenting him at some point in the near future. And I also want to thank the Brandstatters for opening up the theater and showing The Grinch for us. It was a fun time, big crowd, and lots of kids. So it was a really fun night overall, and look forward to it next year as well. So, and just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. That brings us to our administrator, Mr. Dodson.
I met with Choice One Engineering. They wanted to go over the final estimate for the Northeast Street Stormwater Project, which is last year's OPWC grant. Their final estimate came in $59,000 lower than the initial estimate, so they wanted to know if we wanted to try to add to the scope of the project. Since that is partial grant, partial loan match, we decided not to. We're going to do a little bit of patch sidewalk as needed, but we will just let that $59,000 lower help us on a lower match. So that was good. Now that, it could end up coming in higher on the bids than was expected, but that's where it stands currently. So that'll go out to bid in January for a project that'll be due probably by the end of October. It'll be required to be done, but once they start, they'll have to complete it within 60 days. The North Charity Street project, which is this year's OPWC grant, is on track to go out to bid probably in April. That we cannot award the bid until July 1st when it's officially awarded by OPWC, but we will have the bids ready to do that on July 1st, and then that will have a completion date by the end of probably maybe October or November. So both of those projects will be completed next year. The South Union Street Bridge project, the engineering has been awarded by county, so that should also be a 2020 project. We still expect the ODOT project to be a 2020 project.
Man.
CDBG application for the Ash Street Bridge. We're working on getting that all completed. Choice one is getting the estimate ready for that application, and that'll be turned in by the end of January. We have a second reading for that legislation tonight. Steve forwarded me some grant information for a possibility for the potential new community center. It is a federal grant, which does have a lot more strings attached. It's a mitigation grant for emergencies. It would require that at least a portion of the building be built to FEMA specifications for a safe room. So that, that'll obviously make the estimate go up. I need to talk to the architect about that. It also requires training for staffing, so that whenever there's a tornado watch, you have to put staffing on alert, and then whenever there's a tornado warning, they have to report and complete the predetermined tasks that they need to have that building ready. So there's a lot to look at there on whether that's worth it, but that could assist in the funding quite a bit. So we're winding down leaf collection. I think we're pretty well done with that. We did have pretty good turnout. We did have one issue where there was a big pile of leaves at the ditch line, and we started sucking those up, and the woman came running out that she had just purchased those, and she used those to, I guess, spread on their landscaping or something.
Did you tell her next year not to purchase, we'll dump them over here?
We'll make sure she had enough. Other than that, it's gone very smoothly, and I think that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Dodson. Sounds like there's gonna be a lot getting done next year, that's neat. Fiscal Officer, Mr. Gilpin.
A few things. Been really busy working towards year-end reporting and wrapping things up. In addition to that, I attached next to my name monthly distribution report from the Regional Income Tax Agency, and I thought it was rather interesting that we were without the income tax for the first 6 months of this year. And last year, if I remember correctly, we were really close to the target of 290 that they had estimated we would get. And we still have one more distribution to go. It'll probably come Monday. But we have the gross collections before their 3% fee is $144,399. That's for 11 and a half months. And I thought that was actually really good, considering we missed 6 months and we're still on track to collect what we would have had we not had that gap in the timing. So I thought that was rather good collections, considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
So I wanted to pass that on, and it's attached there if anybody wants to review it. And then in addition to that, under legislation, we have ordinance 1930, which is for our annual ordinance for healthcare. Travis and I met with our healthcare broker yesterday and reviewed that. We did have a 5% increase in premium. However, with the change in policy, that employees who had spouses and that had it eligible somewhere else, it was mandatory that they take it somewhere else. So the bottom line is our premium's not going to change. It may change by $100 or $200. It may actually go down a little bit. We're not sure yet after the changes are made the first of the year, but it's going to be really, really close. So our net effect in the cost will be right at zero for next year, which is the first time in many years we've been able to say that. And then lastly, we have ordinance 1931 to amend appropriations, and it's basically three things. I couldn't do this any sooner because we have the third reading on the two new funds tonight for the Mayor's Court Fund and for the Burke Community Trust Fund. So I've added those two to the appropriations, Fund 2909 as the Mayor's Court Fund, and I added the appropriations for this year's collections, which was $89,191.45. And they're highlighted on the ordinance, by the way. And then down towards the bottom, 9976, we talked about this at Finance, actually. I lowered that one by $15,000 because I made a mistake when I put the original figures in there. I forgot to pull out I added up the total requests and forgot the $15,000, that went in the scholarship fund. So I removed that from 9976. And then the new fund for the Burke Community Trust is Fund 9978, and I show $204,041.71, and that's on the expense side. I did talk with Amos Niehaus from the State Auditor's Office this afternoon. I had some concerns about how we're going to show the fourth quarter on there, because I don't get the report till almost the end of January, and they're going to work with us on that. So at least for this year, it'll show the 3 quarters, and he said it may be something where we just modify the annual financial report before we submit it, and it won't quite agree with the UAN, but they know going in that that'll be the case. But we are working towards putting those 2 funds inside the UAN as the audit team had requested us to do. And that's everything I've got.
All right, thanks, Mr. Gilpin. Next up is our solicitor, Ms. Suppinger.
I do not have a report.
Okay. Chief Teague.
I have quite a few things tonight. I'll try to get through them as fast as I can. I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch. Our mileage for the month of November, we drove 3,535 miles. We made 98 traffic stops. 53 of those resulted in citations, 45 warnings. We issued 13 school zone violations. We answered 237 calls for service, resulting in 24 offense reports, 27 incident reports. I'm happy to report that we only had 7 MVAs last month, 6 non-injury, 1 injury. We're on pace for about 90 this year. Our normal average is around 120, so that is good news to report. We assisted other agencies 110 times, 55 outside agencies, 7 fire runs, 39 EMS. We responded to 9 911 hang-up open lines. Officer Ginn is on his last final stages of FTO program. He needs a ride-along sign-off by me in order to be complete, and then I'll ask for him to be removed from probation. Our BAC Data Master is back up and running. This time the repair was $716.20. With that also repair, the Department of Health has reached out to us and asked us to host a recertification for officers throughout the county and adjoining counties on the 29th of January. The Department of Health will actually bring data masters from their office in Columbus, set them up, and officers will come here for their annual certification. So that's going to be on the 29th of January at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. at the community center. Our 2020 pickup truck has been ordered. It has been produced. I do not yet have an ETA from the dealership of when it's supposed to arrive, but it has been produced. 310 North Ash Street, we talked last month that we executed a search warrant. With Ms. Suppinger's help, we issued a letter of violation to the property owner, notifying him that if he continues to allow drug abuse on that property, he could see additional charges to him. He has since evicted the tenants of that, and the other day was witnessed a moving van at that location. Officer Colopy has also filed felony charges resulting of that search warrant, and those were dropped off at the prosecutor's office last week, and I believe he has a grand jury coming up very shortly on those. Also tonight we have Resolution 1042, which is a mutual aid agreement. Primarily it focuses around extraterritorial stops. The Court of Appeals, I'm trying to think of what district it was. Do you remember what district it was, Tommy? Was it the 11th? 12th Circuit. Issued a ruling last year that said if we stop a vehicle and it is outside of our jurisdiction, anything we find that is outside of our jurisdiction besides for the initial stop, we cannot prosecute. Officer Colopy the other night had a person run a red light in front of him. He pursued the vehicle south of town, pulled the vehicle over. It was DUI and had some loaded firearms inside the vehicle. We could not prosecute for the DUI or the firearms inside the vehicle, so we had to call the sheriff's office in to basically take that over, because those crimes technically, even though they happen inside the village of Bethel, we had no knowledge. This mutual aid agreement will ratify that and will give us jurisdiction out in the township. It will also give deputies jurisdiction inside the village. So that is going to be on the resolution tonight for your approval. Our 30-60-90 draft that I spoke about in council prior, Emily has got that for review. That is to clear up our reviews and our fines for our mayor's court. Hopefully I'll have more on that shortly. On the 24th of November, we completed taser training at the fire department. Thank you to the fire department for hosting us in our taser training. On the 25th of November, we completed the Leeds audit. I think I spoke to everyone about, that was our big every 3-year audit. We passed that with flying colors. The state was only out here about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then they were gone. So we had everything set and ready for her to come in. The 29th of next month, we have CPR, first aid, and AED also at the fire department. They are hosting that to us too. We had the Christmas parade, as we talked earlier, and the tree lighting on the 6th and 7th. We had no major issues from a law enforcement perspective, and it was well attended. We are planning on assisting the sheriff's office and Bethel Tate Local School District on a drill, a lockdown drill at the high school on 12/18. That is exam day. That is actually going to be after the exams. So between the hours of 12 and 12:30, we're going to be doing a lockdown drill. We will be assisting them with that lockdown drill. I've talked also prior about ordering rifle plates. We have submitted 2 grants. We've submitted 1 grant to Firehouse Subs. That grant would be 100% paid by them if we are awarded that. I also put in for another grant through the Ohio Attorney General's office with the help of the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. That is a 75% grant. Those rifle plates and accessories that go along with it, helmets and some trauma kits, are $5,256 for our officers. If we get the Firehouse Subs, it'll be 100% paid. If we get the one through the state of Ohio at the 75%, we would pay $1,314. Property room update, we have 2,200 items that we have reviewed for their resultant of all their cases and everything. We are still working in process of reviewing them in order to get our list together for Emily to present to Claremont County for a destruction order. That is processing, but as you can guess, it's a long, drawn-out process. And the very last thing I have, Officer Colopy, will you come up? I'm glad you're here. He doesn't know this, and it actually just worked out good he was here. We received a letter of commendation from the Sheriff's Office from Sergeant Jarman for Officer Colopy, and I'd just like to read it to everyone. Chief Teague, I would like to express my thanks to Officer Colopy for assisting the Sheriff's Office on 11/19/19. Officer Colopy responded with Deputy Rasfeld to an address on South Banham Road for an unknown nature call that turned into a domestic violence. Dispatch advised that a female at this location was yelling for help. Deputy Rasfield advised he was on scene and a male was seen inside the residence with a long gun. This proceeded into a violent situation where the armed subject eventually committed suicide. Officer Colopy volunteered to assist on the call. Once on scene, Officer Colopy assisted Deputy Rasfield in taking the female out of the residence and securing her. Officer Colopy assisted Deputy Rasfield in clearing the residence and maintaining scene security until additional units arrived. And it was a thank you from Sergeant Jarman of the Sheriff's Office. So very dangerous situation. The sergeant was so happy with our response and everything, he felt compelled to write a letter of commendation. And I just wanted to read that out loud. I'm glad he's here. That wasn't planned, but I'm glad it did turn out that way. And I actually am going to put this in his permanent personnel file. So I'd like to that's the last thing I had.
That's awesome, thank you. Good job on the North Ash property.
Thank you, sir.
Officer Colopy and all you guys, and Ms. Supinger for assisting us in us getting people out of town that are undesirable. We appreciate that, so, good work, guys. Next up is our Safety Committee Chair, Ms. Hallfield.
Safety has not met since November 12th, and we've already had a council meeting since then, so I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Finance Committee, Ms. Shepherd.
Okay, we met on December the 4th, 2019, in council chambers. As Mr. Gilpin has already spoken to, we will have we have changed the appropriation, so we do have an ordinance that we're going to look at later on. He did also mention during that meeting that the gas tax that we are receiving has met the projection of around $50,000. That is to be used for streets only, and so it's going to be, will allow us to free up money in the general fund for other, hopefully, playground equipment or whatever's necessary. Also, our fringe benefits are a little bit under budget this year. And Sergeant Teague has already spoken to the new cruiser that we talked about. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January the 7th at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers.
All right, thanks, Ms. Shepherd. Next up is our Parks and Village Property Chair, Mr. Coogan.
Parks and Properties met on December 4th at 6:30 in the evening. We discussed the upcoming concert series. We gave dates of 9 May, 13 June, and 11 July. The bands will cost $3,600. That's for a primary band and the secondary, which is the main band. But the $700 goes to the main band, and that's the headliner. And the first band is a $500 band. I got a list of bands. I'm waiting to call because I need to secure some kind of funding, and I'm going to request this evening through the Burke Trust, if at all possible, gaining funding of $3,600 for this event, or these three events. And from there, I have to work on sponsorship, which I have to hit the Bethel Business Association on. We also discussed Phase 2 of the install of the playground equipment. That's not quite ready yet, and that's tabled for now. We discussed the architect thing that that the mayor and
Mr. Dotson.
Yeah, Mr. Dotson, excuse me, I'm a little lost words here, so, we discussed that, and, he's already discussed that, and we tabled the, dog park, discussion till next month, and we also discussed the Christmas events and all that, so. Our next meeting will be on 7 January, next meeting, 7 January at 6:30 in council chambers. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Coogan. Next up's our Burke Trust, Ms. Ross.
We haven't had to meet, so I have nothing to report. I just have a question, basically, to piggyback on what Brian said. Is that something that the council can vote on for the funding, or is it something that has to go to the committee? I know that it's unanimous.
Let's move to committee.
Okay.
And I don't know that that's an improvement to Burke.
That's what I was wondering.
No,
If it's
I mean, I
something they
think
have-
that's a special event, so.
Okay. So we'll probably have to wait till next year, once we get the we're gonna need 2 more members on Burke Trust, so, okay, that's fine, thank you.
All right, thanks. You also have to be getting one of those good old meetings together of everybody to, the whole of both trust and council, I guess, also the beginning of the year as well.
So I guess we should come at the next council meeting. I'm assuming maybe we should have our picks.
Probably.
Who we want to appoint,
Probably,
council and mayor, so we can kind of get that
yeah,
started after that first council meeting of the year.
definitely.
How many do we have?
I think it's just one
One.
right
We
now.
each have one.
We each have one, mayor and the council.
And that's for the new people that have, how many people are coming off Burke?
2.
2.
It'd be a mayor appointee, which was it Mr. Swarthout?
Might have been John, yes.
And then ours was Brandy Pryor, which I wasn't
wasn't
planning on
Mr.
asking her
Reeves.
again, since she's now on school board, that maybe we could find somebody else to replace that 2-year
So
term.
just some names by next month.
Okay. That's a good idea, Ms. Ross,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Personnel Committee, Ms. Brown.
We have not met since our last meeting, which was prior to our last council meeting. We're still on hold, and we'll meet when told we need to have one.
All right, thanks. Next up, Communication Commission Chair, Mr. Noble.
Thank you. We met on November 19th. I believe everyone showed up.
Except the mayor.
Oh.
Oh, that's right.
So it was a good meeting, a lot of conversation, too much to go through in detail, but mainly one of the big things that we've worked on is Leah Fields is spearheading this. It would be the tagline. The tagline came back at small town, big heart, and now we're transitioning into trying to get more interest in encouraging people to work with that by doing a logo. So she's going to put that out to the schools, maybe some of the art teachers or so forth, or how, grant, I'm not sure, whoever wants to even, do a logo presentation for her. And then she's going to, I believe she's supposed to be posting that on Buffalo United tonight. And then the final entries will be by January 31st, and then I guess they'll get voted on, or however it works out, to just kind of put some creativity and some pizzazz behind the name. So we do have, with the holidays and the transition with the council and mayor seats and the 1st of January, and also having our deadline on January 31st, we've got our next meeting planned on the 3rd week of February. I'm not sure if it's the 19th or the 20th, but I can update you on the next council meeting on that. So,
We also have an open seat with your, don't we? We have an open seat with your,
well, we'll have an open council seat when I leave.
and the
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
And then I don't know if there's a couple 1 years. Did we do a couple 1 years on that? or-
On the.
committee.
Committee,
It's-
communication committee.
I don't recall. off the top. I
Can't
don't think,
remember.
I don't
I
think.
think Becky did on that
Yeah.
one.
But we can
You
check
have
that out
time to
and
think about that, yeah.
send an email or something if we need some ideas. That'd be it.
All right, thanks. And remember, we also have we have a town hall coming up. When was that set for?
That was 13 January.
13th?
16th.
No, I think
16th of January.
16th, excuse me. yeah.
At 7 p.m.
Third Thursday.
Okay. Just want to remind everybody of that, too. Call of members, Ms. Ross, you're up.
Okay, I'll be brief. I just want to talk about last week's festivities, a down-home Christmas. It went wonderfully. If anyone had the opportunity to go out, I was able to do a handful of things. I saw Jay here at the tree lighting, and we kind of discussed how it was nice for some of us to do different things, to be seen and to be involved in the different aspects of everything that's going on in the community. So it's one of my favorite events. We were lucky enough to be able to sit through some of the planning at the end of the year on it, see how that all kind of came together, and I really appreciated that. So it's a great event. It's one of my favorites. Thank you.
And that's I want to also add to that I love seeing elected officials out in public, at public events, and yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think people enjoy seeing that too. So you're supporting events like that.
And I thought it was nice how you actually said hi to us in the audience on Friday, because I think it's good, because I don't think everyone puts our face to our names.
And I think
And we're all very involved in the community, and I don't think they always put it together.
I didn't hear any boos either.
So-
All right, Mr. Noble.
Thank you. Well, just kind of following up on some things with her. I think this next year is going to be a lot better, even more on top of what we did this year, because Judy is pushing to have Judy Adams is pushing to have a follow-up parade meeting, like you said, in January, and that way we can look at have it fresh in our minds of what good might need fixed or tweaked or need to maybe expand or whatever we're going to do, and have a game plan ahead of time and go out through the summer and maybe do some fundraising or whatever we need to do. So I think that was a good idea on her part, so I appreciate that. One little thing that someone did bring up to me, which we may have to, I don't know what the rules are, but it's already been taken care of, but I guess apparently there was motorcycles in the parade and there's horses in the parade, and I believe that they've staged the horses in front of the church, and people had to walk through the mass that next morning going in the church at the front door. So that was just something that got brought up last night, so I don't know. It's kind of a little funny, but at the same time, if you're going, if you got your good shoes on, you don't want to be walking through that stuff, so. And then I just want to say, thanks to everybody giving me an opportunity to represent the village, and I look forward to the transition, and I plan on pushing to build on top of what we've done, so, and carry things forward, so, but thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Noble. Ms. Brown.
All right. First, I want to say thanks to everybody in the audience. I think this is the biggest crowd we've had in a long time, anyway, for coming out. And thanks to everybody who did part of the events or was anywhere behind the scenes or in front of the scenes with the the Down Home Christmas, I know that's a huge hit around here, and it's something special that we've got going on. I was able to go get my photos with Santa's for my dogs. I don't know if everybody else was there, but I was there. And that's always nice. It's $5. I think you can put your kids in there too, but I just take my dogs. And speaking of dogs, make sure you get your dog tags. It is Ohio law, and that is a little cheaper through the month of December. And there are coyotes apparently roaming around, so make sure that you are bringing your pets inside. I've seen where they've jumped over fences and everything else to get people's pets. So just be extra cautious with your pets on that. The free store at the high school, I hear, did really well, and so they will be doing the event again. They are looking for some winter clothing for children right now. Empower Youth will be having their Christmas event, so that's always a blessing to our community. And what else was the other thing was, I wanted to say, congratulations to Jay for becoming our new mayor, and we'll miss you as mayor, Alan. And also, we'll miss Mr. Daugherty for serving as trustee, because he will be going on to better things, hopefully, and I know he'll still be active in the community as well as Alan. And I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who always steps up in our community, and we have quite a few people who do in so many different ways. And that's all I had.
I agree, we are a blessed community to have so many people willing to serve. It is well appreciated, so. All right, thanks, Ms. Brown. Mr. Coogan?
First of all, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Dotson for forgetting his name.
I forget his name all the time.
I had a senior moment there.
Use one of my many answers.
Can't say those here.
Secondly, I'd like to thank Alan for his years of service here in the village, and to say goodbye to you. In this being your final meeting, you've
8 years in a flash, it's unbelievable.
And Mr. Noble, our incoming mayor, had mentioned something to me. He kind of thought a block party for the village would be kind of a good idea. It might be something we might want to mull around, for an August event, since we don't have one.
For my birthday.
And maybe I could secure a band or two for that, and
We do have it is in the special events application, it does allow for a block party.
okay, and see about maybe blocking off 2 or 3 blocks and utilizing that as a drinking area, designated drinking area for,
Entertainment district?
yeah. Just food for thought for future meeting. And nothing else.
All right, thanks, Mr. Coogan. Ms. Shepherd?
I'd like to start off by thanking the Bethel Historical Society for allowing us to have our tree lighting.
Yeah, right.
I think that was a very special to us from them. And many, many thanks to the Bransteaders for opening the Midway for us. I went last year, and it was well received, but I bet there was 3 times the people there this time. So thank you for the Bransteaders, and let's do it more often. And of course, thank you to my Aunt Cindy Shepherd. She's not my aunt, we call her Aunt Cindy, for her tireless giving to the schools, to the village, to everything. She's a very good planner, gets everything pulled off, and works hard at it. And I hope she has a trainee.
I know she wore me out.
Yes, she will. And that's it.
All right, thanks. Ms. Holyfield?
Thank you to you, Alan, for your service to the village and helping me in my last 4 years. Looking forward to the future with Jay. Merry Christmas to all that's listening in here. And I feel that we need to discuss, I don't know if this is next meeting, if this is open session now, or executive session, we need to come up with what we're going to do to replace the seat that is going to be open next month. I know it was mentioned last month, but it was not mentioned with any certainty.
Well,
We have received, 3 people have expressed interest. I've received 2 of those letters of interest. And it was put in the paper that we would accept letters of interest up until the January council meeting, and then the decision will be made at the January council meeting.
Is that put on the Facebook site as
I
well?
haven't yet, but
I mean, basically, you will, the way I understand, you guys will candidate them here that night, and then if you want to, you can go into executive session to discuss.
Correct.
And like I said,
Select.
nothing was set with any certainty last month. It was all just kind of,
If
maybe
it all
we
has
can
to
do
be
this, maybe
done
we can do that.
Out in the
So,
open, I mean,
Right.
but, you know, you'll basically give them a chance to speak that night.
Okay.
And these candidates know that to come to the meeting?
yeah, I have to make sure that, and I'll for that.
And again, the date for the meeting next month is?
So, is it the 10th?
I thought
The ninth.
No. And that's
Now, we're gonna be,
January 9th at
January 9th.
5:30.
is a copy of the resume gonna be forwarded to us prior to the meeting?
Yes. Yes, I will send those out.
All right, anything else, Ms. Halville?
No, I think that's it.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
That gets us to legislation, and we have a bunch to do here.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I apologize, but while Ms. Shepherd was giving the Finance Committee report, it occurred to me that one thing Finance did discuss was the temporary appropriations, and they did not make it on the agenda. Very important for tonight. I told Travis this afternoon, I kept looking at it, I was thinking I was forgetting something, but I couldn't find it. And I think it was because I do amend appropriations, but I just printed them to the copier, and Chief Teague got them, so we're going to do this one the old-fashioned way.
Oh, boy, we get paper.
Give
Okay.
me number 1932 at the end, and I'll go over it briefly, so I apologize for not being on there.
Well, I apologize to you because I thought, because you had said it would be 1928. Well, obviously, it's not
No, it's not.
ordinance 1928, so I was
That one got
assuming that
duplicated, which is why I didn't get all-
1931 was the new number on that.
No, that's what, it hit me when I was looking at that. I think Travis and I both used the same ordinance number, and that's why I kept looking at the numbers and didn't realize it wasn't there, so,
Okay, so we'll have that at the end?
yes.
All right. You have to help me with that number again when we get there. All right, here we go. Ordinance 1923, an ordinance authorizing the retention of Keith C. Foreman as prosecutor for the, to provide prosecutorial services for the Village of Bethel, Ohio. This is a third reading, and what is council's pleasure with this?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 1923.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. Mr. Ross, any questions? If not, Mr. Gilpin, call the roll.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes?
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
All right, ordinance 1924 is an ordinance confirming Joseph Candido as magistrate, and this also stands as a third reading.
I move to adopt ordinance 1924.
I second that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Holyfield and Mr. Coogan. Any questions or discussion about 1924? Mr. Gilpin, call the roll, please.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes?
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
Ordinance 1925 is an ordinance authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer money from the general fund to the police operations fund, and this is a third reading. Council?
I move we adopt ordinance 1925.
Thank you, Ms. Holyfield. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Is there any questions? Mr. Gilpin, call the roll, please.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes?
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1928 is an ordinance establishing fund.
26.
Good. Yes, I missed that, sorry. Ordinance 1926 is what I meant to say, is an ordinance establishing Fund 2909, a restricted fund within the village budget to be entitled Mayor's Court Fund, and this is a third reading. What's your pleasure, council?
Move we adopt ordinance 1926.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I heard Ms. Ross first. Is there any questions about 1926? All right, Mr. Gilpin, call the roll, please.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes?
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
All right, now to the hitherto said ordinance 1928, an ordinance establishing Fund 9978, a restricted fiduciary trust fund within the village budget to be entitled Burke Community Trust Fund. Do we need to waive the three on this?
Yes, this is second reading, so yes.
So it needs to be done tonight?
Yes.
We need to waive the three on this, council.
I move we waive the three on ordinance 1928.
Thank you. Ms. Holyfield, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
All right, having waived the three, we can move on to adopting ordinance 1928, and I'd entertain a motion to do that.
And move we adopt ordinance 1928.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Mr. Coogan, is there any questions about 1928? All right, Mr. Gilpin, call the roll, please.
Just a moment, it's hanging up on me all of a sudden.
It's already overheating.
Yeah. Okay, now I got it. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That is said and done. Ordinance 1929 is an ordinance amending the Village of Bethel personnel policy and declaring it an emergency. And we also need to waive the three on this, I believe.
I move we waive the three on ordinance 1929.
Thank you. Ms. Holyfield, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Would you call the roll for waiving the three on this, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
All right, now to adopt ordinance 1929, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we adopt ordinance 1929.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Mr. Coogan, is there questions about 1929? All right, Mr. Gilpin, call the roll, please.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
Now we need to make this an emergency as well. I'd entertain a motion to declare 1929 an emergency. So it can be adopted before the end of the year.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Second.
Second. Ms. Shepherd and Ms. Holyfield. Any questions? You can't make questions about an emergency, right? Call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin. We haven't done that for a while.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
All right, ordinance 1930 is an ordinance authorizing the execution of the necessary documents for the provision of the medical, dental, and vision health care coverage for the full-time employees, and we need to waive the three on this as well.
I move we waive the three reading rule in ordinance 1930.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Call the roll, please. Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
All right, now to adopt ordinance 1930, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Holyfield. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Is there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Is there any questions about 1930? This is the medical care that Mr. Gilpin spoke to earlier. So call the roll,
Could
please.
I have those motions again? It hung up. Who for-
Me and.
Ms. Holyfield and Mr. Coogan.
Okay.
You can call the roll when ready, Mr. Gilpin.
There, got it. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
And ordinance 1931, do we have to waive the three on that? I mean, declare that an emergency?
The 1930?
Yes.
No, it's fine.
All right. Ordinance 1931 is an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Bethel, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. We need to waive the three on this as well.
I move we waive the three reading rule in ordinance 1931.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Ms. Shepherd and Mr. Coogan. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holyfield?
Yes.
Now to adopt ordinance 1931, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Mr. Coogan, thank you. Any questions about these appropriations?
This is the one to amend the current appropriation, is that correct?
That is correct.
So our number on our papers that we're doing the old-fashioned way is incorrect.
No, that's a
That's
different one.
a different one.
Those
It's
are
a different
temporary appropriations for
That's
next
for
year.
next year.
Okay. Thank you.
This is totally different. Or, it's a good question, though.
Well, I got confused.
This one is so we can add the numbers for the mayor's court and the
And Burke
Burke
Trust.
Trust, which
Okay.
didn't exist until they approved the legislation tonight.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions about, we're on 31, right? 1931?
Yes.
If not, no. If not, you could call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
And Resolution 1039 is a resolution establishing wages and salaries for the village employees for 2020, and this is a third reading. What is council's pleasure?
Move we adopt resolution 1039.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
I heard Mr. Noble first. Is there any questions about 1039? Call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Resolution 1040, a resolution requesting the Claremont County Auditor to advance taxes and assessments from the proceeds of tax levies pursuant to Section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code, and this stands as a third reading. What's your pleasure, council?
I move we adopt resolution 1040.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That is adopted. Resolution 1041 is a resolution authorizing the village administrator to submit applications for community development block grant funds, to accept the grant funds, and to enter into any necessary contracts for the expenditure of the community development block grant funds. And this is the second reading. You all will get to wrestle with that next month. Resolution 1042 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a mutual aid agreement with other law enforcement agencies in Claremont County. You want this to pass tonight, right?
Yes, correct.
So we need to waive the 3 on this as well.
I move we waive the 3 on resolution 1042.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Holifield. Ms. Brown, could you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
And to adopt Resolution 1042, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we adopt 1042.
Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Is there any other questions of Chief for this? All right, call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
I don't think there's a need to make that an emergency, is there?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
And then we are at our other paper.
Ordinance 1932.
It'll be ordinance 1932. It is the temporary appropriations that Finance discussed in detail. 2020 is the left column. Most of them are the same as this year. If there's a gray highlight to it, that means it was changed for 2020.
These are the temporary appropriations.
Yes, this is just to get us through March, and honestly, we'll probably have to amend these in January because when we did these, the 2 funds for tonight also did not exist. So we don't have to, but we probably will in January or February, one of the 2.
Okay. You said it's
1932 is the ordinance number.
1932.
So we'll need to waive and adopt.
So we're going to need to waive the 3 reading rule for 1932, which is the temporary appropriations for the beginning of the year 2020. I'd entertain a motion to waive the 3 reading rule.
I make a motion we waive the 3 reading rule.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Do I hear a
I
second?
second that.
Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
And to adopt 1932, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Holifield. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Is there any questions about 1932? We did go over these extensively in the
Finance.
Finance Committee.
Yes.
So, all right, would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin, for 1932?
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
And that is a done deal.
Yeah, I've got it there right before adjournment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see it now.
That brings us to approval of expenses, I believe. I trust you all have seen those. I would entertain a motion, we adopt those as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. A lot of sidebars going on. Ms. Shepherd, is there a second?
I second that.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Coogan. Call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And I entertain a motion, we pay the bills.
I make a motion we pay the bills.
I'll second that.
Good idea. Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Ms. Brown. Call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
All right, and just before adjournment, we're going to do the oath. Mr. Noble?
You gotta take your oath.
Yes.
You want to get sworn in tonight?
What? I don't know. I was trying to sort paper.
You gotta get signed, you gotta take your oath. You don't, you,
Oh, I thought we were doing a special meeting for all that stuff. All right, never mind.
Did you want other people present is what I think
Yeah,
we're
that's-
asking. You don't have to do it tonight, but you're going to have.
That's fine, right? Nuisance and
Is your girlfriend gonna be mad if she's not here?
probably.
Okay.
let's wait.
I think you delay it then if you, if she
I
didn't
didn't know.
mad.
Make the family know.
I didn't know
That's
it
what
was
I'm
coming.
saying.
Yeah.
Gotta keep home.
My family wanted to be here when I took my oath.
When do we want to do it?
You're looking at me?
Well, when do we want to do it?
Do we have to do it before?
I mean, some people, I've got 2 already scheduled for January 1st. I got one at 10 a.m. and I've got one at either 11 or 12, I can't remember.
Well, he has,
You can do
doesn't
it. You
have to be
have-
done before midnight?
Yeah, you have to do it on by January 1st, but we can do it anytime up until, the end of the day, January 1st.
I don't know. I thought that was going to be a discussion for tonight, which it is. So.
We're having it right now.
So well, let's just have a special meeting then before the end of the year, if you want.
Because it's only Christmas, we got all this extra time.
That's what-
The other thing is, while I am happy to swear you in, some people like to have other people swear them in, which is fine as well. If there's a county commissioner or
You know, I had
a trustee or
my
a
cousin swear me in.
judge, that you know or like or something like that. My other 2 communities, I am not actually swearing in my mayors. They are getting sworn in by some judges, so that's fine as well.
I don't have any preferences on that. So.
Well,
You gotta pick a date.
Pick a date.
Huh?
Calendar out.
So, I have surgery the 17th, so I will not be here.
Sir, you had that deer in the headlights look.
Well, yeah, because I was trying to sign a paper.
Pay the bills and you're good.
I don't know. This is
so we're going to have a meeting of council to do that?
Does it need to be a meeting at council?
It doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He can just set a time that's good for him and you guys can meet here or whatever. Whoever you want to swear you in. I was sworn in over at the steps of the Grant Memorial
Can
Building.
we go ahead and do the oaths for the 2 council members, or do you want to have people here?
Oh, I didn't realize I had to redo my oath. Yeah, I don't
That's fine
care.
with me.
You want to go ahead and do yours?
Sure.
Yeah, they're all.
It's only the first swearing in that's the count.
That's the big one.
It's like first
We're
line.
going together pictures. I'm sorry.
I'll do that.
We went together before, Lucy. Did we?
I swore you in, yeah, all of you made, I made you all raise your hand, yeah.
Come on
It's
out.
all individuals.
Shut your house door.
I, Don Hollifield, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, and the ordinances and resolutions of the Village of Bethel, that I will, in all respects, faithfully perform the duties of the office of council member to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you.
You gotta sign that.
Okay. I'll let Lucy know and then I'll sign it. Travis, that picture is for your own personal.
Facebook.
Don't be.
I, Lucy Shepherd,
I, Lucy Shepherd,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and
of the
laws
State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
and the ordinances and resolutions
and the ordinance and resolutions
of the Village of Bethel,
of the Village of Bethel,
that I will,
in
in all respects,
all respects,
faithfully perform the duties
faithfully perform the
of
duties
the office of council member
of the office of council member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And thank you, ladies, for stepping up and being willing to serve again. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Having seen no more business before us, we're going to move to adjournment, correct?
So moved.
But before we adjourn, we need to, I just want to let everybody know we're having a reception at the community center for ceremonial culling of the lame duck.
Are you serious?
We are.
More serious.
Are you kidding me? You people surprised me? That's unbelievable. I didn't think that was possible.
But you knew everything.
I knew everything going on in this town. All right, we are, yeah, moving to adjournment. You guys got another meeting to go to, so. I entertain you got a motion?
Need a second.
All right, call the roll, please, Mr. Gilman,
Yes.
for adjournment, our last one.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holofield?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Stay classy, Bethel.
All right.